like
Yes.
when we opened our ABA company, like we've talked about all the mistakes that we made, but like, and one of them like was we were just like I wanted to help people and Steven wanted to make money, and like that was like somehow the journey started that way,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, those two actually worked very well, right? With a limit on, and the focus was like like a high quality of care, high help, but also we need to pay the bills. And
No.
somehow those two meshed together in a way that we could get what we needed without that unethical, and our focus, even when we didn't know our values, when we didn't
Yeah.
know what we were doing, we were just winging it, was we're not going to focus on billable hours. We can't focus. That can't be the focus. And so, and I know so many people want, and we're kind of getting off in the
Yep.
weeds here,
Going crazy.
but that was just the focus of so many. And I think going back to that, having that foundation is so important. And
It is because the money part, like in this, like
if the copy isn't
no,
authentic,
exactly.
if your copy and the words you're using are not really your words, then it's not genuine, and people feel it, they can see it, and I think
Right. I mean, and like our journey was like rocky and up and down and whatever. And like finally, like as we were coming together, and it's like it like money, like we kind of were able to see each other like money. Okay, money's important. We got to pay the bills. And you're like, yes, quality. I don't think you've always felt like quality services, but like what that even meant was important. And then being able to come in the last couple of years and going into like ridiculous COVID times, right? Like that's when we started like looking together, like defining the values, defining like what it is that we wanted and roles and responsibilities and stuff. And then I think that's what we do in 3 Pi Squared. In fact, that's what we were just doing over the last 2 weeks is like revisiting the values and all of that stuff and like looking at our intentions and where we want to go with things. And this is like really interesting to me. So like let's say like us as 3 Pi Squared came to you and said, okay, help. Like so I hear the first step would be like or one of the first steps would be like taking this archetypes quiz, right? Like and figuring out what that is. And then like what would you do? Like what would we do next?
This is fun because I have done this with co-owners as well. And they sit down together and do this assessment, and they have to, it's pretty lengthy. It's about 5 or 6 pages. There's a lot of questions. And you really do have to sit together and talk about how you would assign value to each one of these questions. And for the folks I have done this with who are co-creating a business or co-founders or co-whatevers, those discussions have been so helpful for them because even the simplest questions can really open up like dialogues that are really important. I also think everyone who's ever going to get married should do this together.
Ah,
Find out your brand
totally.
personality for your marriage, because there really is a lot of really important questions that are on this thing. So it is really fun. So we do that first, and then I always meet with the business owner or owners, and we go through like a 90-minute to 2-hour debrief on, how all of this for two work together, how they work together with your actual personalities, because this can yield 144 different brand blends, but then there's a million personalities. So we really dial it down to like how it applies, what part you do like, which parts you don't like. And then from there, I produce an ideas book for people, which is like how to actually use this in designing a lead magnet, how to use it in visual imagery on their website, their social media content pillars, blog topics, everything like that. So we start with that to develop brand personality. And then to Steven's point, like your copy has to sound like yourself. We get to that this way. The second part of copy that's really important, though, is that your reader, the human being who comes across it, has to see their own language. That's really the secret of copy. And that's where most people misperceive copywriting as like a creative writing exercise. It's actually not. So after we do this together, I spend about 10 to 20 hours going into the back end of the World Wide Web and interviews and talking to you about your clients and reading your discovery call notes if you have them and finding out how people talk about what they want and what they need and what they're going through. And so in my copy, I call it the coach approach to copy, because when someone comes to a page, the first thing I want is for them to feel acknowledged, validated, and normal. Right? I don't want them to hear about you and how great you are. We don't do like business-centered copy on a homepage. It's important we get there. You are the solution. But the first thing we always do is like, okay, you might be going through this, and this. And like, of course you are. It's okay. So many people are, right?
Right.
Obviously, depending on your brand personality, but the most important thing on your website more than anything is how people talk about what they want and what they're going through. Even more important than brand personality. So then we end up mashing all that together to make copy, blog post pillars, all of that stuff, because it has to be both. And I try very hard to avoid super like coach centric or business owner centric websites that really center the person, and I really try to center the reader, because that's what keeps people reading themselves. People like themselves. They really want to. They don't really care about you that much, to be honest. All they care is that by the time they get to you, that they feel acknowledged, heard, and that you know what their problem is. Therefore, they believe that you might be the fit to solve it, and they can make an educated decision. So we do. That's like one of the sort of like ethical copywriting principles that we have here, is centering the client and not centering the business, because there's just a lot of narcissism out there in the copy world.
Yeah.